just by summary of what has been happening around the SKIZA tunes and the impasse that has appeared to happen between the artists and them getting paid by Safaricom, we just wanted to give some clarification as to what is really happening. A lot of work was done around last year in July to get together the collective management organizations. This is MCSK, PRISC, and CAMP, who together represent the intellectual property for the artists, together with Safaricom. And what we did is we signed an agreement that will allow all the music that is loaded on SKIZA to be monetized for the benefit of the artists. However, unfortunately, as soon as we signed the agreement, even before it could be made public, an injunction was put in place by content service providers, or PRSPs, who were of the view that payments should be made to them and not to the CMOs. So the matter was taken before the High Court, and the decision is still being awaited to date. What has happened in the intervening period is obviously the fact that since there was an injunction in place, Safaricom could not make these payments out. And that has brought a lot of suffering to artists, which is quite unfortunate. The position has been that in around January this year, Safaricom brought together all the parties to the dispute, the PRSPs, the CMOs, and everyone who was involved in the matter, to sit together and find a way of trying to urgently resolve the issue, even as we await the court decision to be made. So what we did through a series of very difficult meetings that took around 7 days, the parties were able to come up with a consent. And what the consent said was that if filed in court, which it was eventually, a portion of the money would be paid to the PRSPs and a portion of the money would be paid to the CMOs. This would not disturb the progress of the court matter, as the decision would be made and eventually decide which of these parties would be receiving the monies going forward. Under the consent, the CMOs were to receive their payments. However, as soon as Safaricom was ready to make payments to the CMOs, another injunction was received, this time from a court in Malindi. Two of the artists went to that court, asked for the court to stop any payments being made to the CMOs, and immediately we had to comply with the court order because, of course, we operate within a legal framework. Because of that, all the work that had been done to try and broker a consent that would allow monies to flow to the artists was again stopped. As it is today, we are waiting for the judgment of the two matters in Nairobi High Court, which will be decided on the 15th of April. Once those are decided, whichever way it goes, Safaricom will be able to make payments to either the CMOs or the PRSPs, or whichever party the court rules to be the one to receive the money. How can we refuse to pay? Because the law says you pay these entities. We can't call them and line them up and start paying them. That's not how it works. They then must sit together with that organization and say, why are you telling us to go and do one thing or another? How are we going to get paid when the money is released to us? That's the scrutiny I'm saying. You said the example of that artist from whichever part of Kenya. He can't be part of an association whereby he's being used to come and hit at Safaricom for payments Safaricom is very willing to make. He must go to that body and say, how are we going to get money from you? They need to elect the right guys. They need to have the right structures to ensure that when Safaricom is ready to pay, if it's Airtel, if it's Orange, whichever company that is running such a platform, they receive the money and they can get it. Yeah, I mean, it will be a futile thing. And one thing which maybe needs to come out is that we're in talks with them. Yeah, it's not as if we're in opposing sides. It's people who we speak to every day. They understand the situation. So if they come and picket at Safaricom, they know why we can't pay. We can't pay because the matter is in court. They themselves are in court, not even other people. They themselves are in court. They know that you can't pay something if the court has said you can't pay it. Well, I will not comment about that, but I'll say what I've said before. The structures that these artists are using to get their money need to be scrutinized. If you're going to sing and make a very good album, and then you trust someone to pick your money who has more of his interests at heart than yours, then really all we do is provide a platform. Your album really sells on this platform. We pick the money, then we ask you, you said this is the person we pay to them, then if you don't get it, it's unfortunate, and we want to change that cycle. And that cycle can only be changed by the artists themselves. They must hold to account all those bodies that collect money for them, so that this thing works and becomes a regular source of income. But right now, what we just want is some monies to flow. To be very honest, the artists are suffering. There are guys who are not able to pick, to get anything to feed themselves, or even 5Gs. So MCSK should be handled by the association itself. They should come and say, you are the problem, you have court cases against you for criminal matters, get out. We clean up the officials. Then set up accounts that actually are transparent. The money comes in from Safaricom, you line up, you check your register, you see how much you're due, you're paid. That's how it should work. Because we can't cross the line and start dictating to people, remove this organization or remove that organization. Then it becomes a bit complex. KECOBO should actually be held to task because it is a regulator for those CMOs. KECOBO should actually make sure that if CMOs have frozen accounts and all that, they should have maybe a halfway house where the money can be paid to KECOBO, and KECOBO makes that money available to the artists. Because that is what is really paining Safaricom. Because the money is not flowing. There's a blockage somewhere. And because of that blockage, a lot of focus comes back to Safaricom, whereas we are not interested in keeping that money. In fact, we're interested in growing the platform so the artists can actually sell more and more music. That is something that should be available to the artists. It should not be that you have to go to the CMO. We're going to move to a transparent world where it will actually be possible for you to see what is being downloaded.